Take it away.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Wendy. It's almost like you wrote it from scratch or something, like you had no notes or anywhere to pull that from. I was like, it's amazing. How'd you know so much about me?
Many conference calls.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's really good to be back with your group again. Obviously, partaking in the Zoom fatigue like everyone else has over the past year. I was actually out, I think it was a couple of years ago, to speak with you guys in person. And I don't know if anyone remembers me being there, but I look forward to seeing you guys in person again, hopefully soon, either at conference or at a coming meeting in the next few months. So it's good to be back. And yeah, it's nice to try to get active again in the community and try to connect. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys today about our latest generation and how they're influencing travel and how they're influencing work and how those go together and who they are. And typically, you know, when I do my presentations and in front of a group, I love to be as interactive as possible. So I'm going to ask a couple questions and stuff throughout in the chat. And if you guys can respond, that's cool. Or, you know, no pressure. You try to like take what you would do as like a speaker that you would something you would normally be doing like in person, and then try to translate it on Zoom. It's not always the best, but I will ask a couple questions and try to get some interactions out of you guys throughout the presentation. But we're gonna dive in and talk a little bit about our Gen Ys and our Gen Zs. So I'm gonna share my screen, and I do have a couple videos in this, and we figured out how to get the sound to go through Zoom. So I'm gonna do that. And when we get to the video, if it's not working, one of the OBTA people, please go, damn, it's not working, and then we'll pause and try to figure it out. Cool. But I think we got it working. We did a test ahead of time. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and let's see if I can make this work. Okay, share sound, screen on, boom, present. Give me a thumbs up if we got this. Okay, cool. All right, here we are. And I've got my notes over here. I got the presentation over here, and I got you guys right there. So today we're talking about Gen Y and Gen Z and how they're influencers in travel specifically, but also how they're influencing our world and also the workplace. But, you know, we care about the workplace. We care about the travel for our professional mind stay. But I mean, for any of you out there that have a millennial or a Gen Y kid or a Gen Z kid, you guys know how much impact they're having in our worlds right now as they bury their heads in their phones and Snapchat and TikTok and are doing those little dances and stuff. I myself am an older millennial, and I was born in 1983, so I'm an older millennial, but I have a Gen Z daughter who's 14, and who I inherited through marriage, and she's fantastic. But it's just so funny to see like that stark difference between my generation and hers, and how things are changing. You guys are all seeing that as well. So with our interest in social media, because we're all hip to that, please use the hashtags Gen Y, Gen Z, and OK Boomer as our hashtag today. And you can find me on all of the socials across the board. Every single thing is TN Hines. So that's Instagram, that's LinkedIn. Please hit me up on there. And of course, Twitter and even Facebook. Everything of mine is TN Hines. I was able to grab that early on. Like, that's one of the benefits of being a early technology adopter. You get the handles that are actually your name. So I went on, I got them. And you can find me at tnhines.com. See, the brand is just so cohesive. I'm excited about that. So the first thing I want to get into is who they are. Who are the Gen Ys and the Gen Zs? And I'm going to kick it off with a little video. Let's see if we can get the sound working here. Give me a thumbs up if it's working.
What's up, man? You doing a little dance? Oh, yeah, it's just a new challenge. Oh, yeah, I remember my first challenge. Yo, what's that supposed to mean? Nah, it's okay. One day you'll grow up. Yeah, I'll grow up to be what? You? Excuse me? What do you do for a living? Oh, wait, let me guess. You make avocado toast. Actually, it's an avocado toast delivery service. I'm in tech. Do you even have a job? Job? I have like 500,000 followers. For what? I do pranks on old people. Dude, that is so stupid. Yeah, okay, boomer. Dude, I'm not a boomer. I'm 30. Oh my God, you're 30? How are you still alive? Stop. Yo, we get it, okay? You were born in the 90s. Hey Arnold wasn't even that good. What? Hey Arnold was groundbreaking. Go read a BuzzFeed article. God, you're mean. Ooh, I work in tech. I pay $1,400 a month to live with 4 roommates, and I think I'm living independently. God, that's so specific. Harry Potter's just a book, dude. You know, most people would be upset right now, but as a Gryffindor, I act with strength and honor. Go drink some sour beers, you alco. God, I'm being insulted by a toddler. Ooh, are you having a hard time adulting right now? Oop, I'm gonna oop, oop. Are you gonna oop? Cringe. You don't even know what that means. Dude, all your generation listens to is mumble rap. Yo, that was pretty good. Dude, are you signed right now? Because I just started a record label and I'm sure you're pretty poor, so maybe I can help you out. All those stupid dances too? We were doing dances way before you. Dude, your generation's dances sucks, dude. Yeah, right. You can never hit that. Every day, bro. Hey, neighbors. How's it going? Having a little dance party? What is that, dude? Mind if I join? That is a boomer. They ruin everything. That's a classic right there.
So anyway, that's a little Gen Z versus millennial rant. And then, of course, the boomer shows up and ruins everything. No offense, boomers. That's Brent Padilla. He's from California, pretty funny comedian. He always does these little spoofs. So I thought that one was kind of funny to see, like, you know, they're both like, from a generational perspective, especially those in older generations, are looking at these kids and going, you guys are both nuts. But then there's a little feud going on between the two of them that's happening right now because the Gen Z is coming of age. And so now it's just like, my generation's like, well, look at these guys. Like they're so much more worse than us. Come on, let's all rally around the younger generation. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But I thought that was kind of a funny way to break the ice. So defining who our generations are. So there's our silent generation, which was born between 28 and 45. Our boomers that were born between 46 and 64, and my parents fall in there. Then our Generation X, which is between 65 and 80. And then Gen Y, where I fall in, is 81 through 96. And then Gen Z was born between 1997 and 2012-ish. And these, and what's funny is you guys can like go and look this stuff up, but there will be various definitions of where these lines are drawn and when one generation ends or another, and they'll like be fudged by 5 years plus or 5 years back. But this is kind of like, I don't know, a good scope of where those generations actually stop and end. Like I actually saw one that said like Ys were actually went between 80 and 2000, and then recently it was like 96. And so they're always changing. No one actually makes this up. It's all interpreted. But this is kind of like when they break these up by like when people are going to be coming of age as adults and their influence in society. So Ys and Zs, those are the top right there who we'll be focusing on today. And so who is Gen Y? And this will be my first question to the group. If you guys can jump into chat, tell me who they are. Give me some attributes about Gen Y, or AKA the millennials, like my group of people. If you are one in the room, this is cheating for you, so don't do it. But for those of you who are not part of the Gen Y group, would love for you to just pop into chat and just tell us who you think they are, some attributes about them. Would love to hear some opinions, maybe some negative things. I always like hearing that. So if you guys can jump in, we'll let some chats fly in, and we'll take a look. I feel like I'm listening to my daughter and her friends. LOL. Yeah, right. Who are these kids? Spoiled digital natives. That's a good one. That's a positive. Always on their phones typing, 100%. You know what's funny is I actually had to make a rule at our table, no phones at the table, because the kid, she just won't put her phone down. Like she's always, I'm on mine all the time too, but just like, boy, grew up with easy access to technology and the internet. Yeah, that's definitely one about Gen Y for sure. These are great. Spoiled, that one's funny. So to keep things rolling, Those are all great, by the way. But I would say that Gen Y is what we kind of call them, or how we like term ourselves, is we're pioneers of the digital world, right? So I remember when I was a kid, my dad had like an actual like car phone like built into his car, and we thought that was the coolest thing. And it actually had the keypad, and he would punch it and connect it to his like StarTAC cell phone, a big flip phone. And then when I got into high school, I didn't have a cell phone, but I had a pager. I remember having a pager, and like I would get pinged from my family, and I have to actually go to a payphone and then do the call from a pager, which was hilarious. And then as the internet took adoption and social media took over and the iPhone came out, like the millennials like saw all that as like we were younger and kind of coming of age. And so we're kind of known as the pioneers of like the digital world, the world that we're in today. So we were the first ones to kind of figure out and navigate how to get through that. Gen Y is also highly approval seeking. So you'll see this, I think, a lot from just like the desire to share personal experiences, the desire to, have those anecdotes, the gamification of everything. Those are things that Gen Y wants. Like, I don't want to let anybody down. I want to get everyone's approval before I do something, want to get buy-in, which kind of leads to like some uncertainty, some unsurety in their lives, but they're highly approval seeking, which can be great from an employer perspective. So table that. They've also been leaders for social good. So as the millennials have kind of been coming of age, you see a lot of these like social good movements and that they've been kind of pioneering. And one of the things that I think I saw a lot in the tech industry was like that tech for good thing where, all of these companies, example, like Tom's or whoever else is like, hey, you're going to buy a pair of shoes from us, and we're going to donate a pair. And I believe that I want to work for companies that are leaders in social good and that are going to give back in some way. And so that's been a very Gen Y focused thing. They're also superpreneurs. So I've been a part of this group of people that are like, hey, the dot-com bust happened when I was a kid, and we see where internet's going today. Let me start something. Let me start something else, and let's keep creating and like building new companies and like leading this entrepreneurial surge. And a lot of this, what you see in like Silicon Valley and where you guys are on the West Coast, and even where I am in Austin, has been led a lot by Gen Y and building all of these great new technologies and new companies that are constantly coming out and surging through. I have a friend of mine who has successfully exited like 2 companies already, and he just launched a 3rd fintech startup. And I'm sitting here going, man, you're like almost 40. You got to be exhausted. But he's a superpreneur. Like, he's always trying to work for himself, trying to figure out a cool new solution, because that's what makes him happy, and it helps him to have that drive. They have been the most educated generation in history. So more Gen Ys than any other generation have attended college and graduated with some sort of degree. Now, on the flip side of that, that also leads to massive mountains of student loan debt. Part of that has to do with their parents were very like education minded, like, hey, I didn't go to school, you're going to school, I want to make sure you go to school, you have a great career. And so the millennials were very society pushed into going to school, which is great because they're super educated, but they also have much more debt than by percentage than any of the previous generations. And so I'm still paying off my student loans, and I'm almost 40 now. It's just, it sucks. And then that also leads to the struggles for middle class. And I mean, we've all been a part of seeing what's happened over the past year, especially when it comes to home buying, right? Across the country, but even on the West Coast is nuts. I have a couple properties in California, and I was able to, get my hands on those. But I just read an article the other day. The median home price in California is now $730,000. Like, I couldn't afford that. I couldn't afford a median house in California. So Gen Y is struggling hardcore into these mountains of student loan debt that they have to pay back, struggling to figure out their place, and then looking to try to like move their way up in class, and they can't quite get there because now it's almost unattainable to even be able to buy a home. So there's some struggles that they're working through, but I have faith they'll get there one of these days. Now, next question. Who are the Centennials? Who's Gen Z, guys? We told you that they were born like 97 through 2012. Tell me about that group of people. What do you know about those kids? TikTok. That's a good one. Glued to screens. I have a 10-year-old. Yeah, TikTok is an app that definitely defines them. My kid loves that. I always catch her with her friends, like in the kitchen doing some sort of dance. Like, what are you doing? And then just be standing around like in a grocery store doing this thing. And I'm just like, Macarena, what? I don't know. What are you doing? The ones I know have low motivation. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe a little unmotivated, little lazy. I think my kid is actually still asleep in the other room. I mean, summer break, but I mean, it's almost 2 my time. I don't know what she's doing. If she's not asleep, she's definitely on her phone. Anything else coming in? Unable to function without tech? Yeah, that's a good one too. So Gen Z is the largest generation ever. And what's interesting about that is the millennials, Gen Y, was the largest generation ever. And I'll go into the numbers in a minute, but it's crazy to think about the sheer size of these groups, because as they come of age, that means, you know, whoever has the biggest population usually dictates the culture, dictates the rules. And so Gen Z is going to be the largest, it will be and is the largest generation ever. They are uber visual, right? So video is greater than articles. They'd rather watch a video than read an article. Obviously, we've seen the newspaper transition out, and that was a very millennial thing. I actually used to work at a newspaper. I used to work at the Chicago Tribune, at the Tribune Media Group in advertiser marketing. That was one of my first jobs out of school, and now that building has been turned into condos in Chicago. And I saw someone actually reading a printed newspaper the other day. And I was like, well, that's weird. I see a printed newspaper. Like, you don't even see them. And that's for my generation. So we know that that Gen Z is like, that's completely obsolete, right? They want to see something on video. They're very dictated by what is visual. That's how they're stimulated. That's why they're always in their phones. And it's probably only exacerbating the problem. But they don't know a world without the internet, right? So we're Gen Y, millennials, my group, came in, we got older, high school hit, that's when the internet happened. I had dial-up internet, right? And then it went to high speed and then fiber, and then now it's like, we've got everything. But these guys were born in a time where they only knew that the internet existed. So that access to information is something that they just know as regular life. And so like when the power goes out, it's like, what do they do? I can't get online. Oh my gosh. It's like, go read a book. And they're like, I don't read books. You know, I read stuff online, or I watch my videos, or I do whatever. So they don't know that world. So that's something to really think about, you know, as they go to work, as they start to travel. Like, they're not going to use a map, right? When they're on the road, they're going to depend on their phones no matter what. They're also like Gen Y. They're very cause and community driven. You know, they care about a lot of things. I read an article. However you guys feel about it, but I read an article the other day that said that that Gen Z, like one of their biggest concerns is climate change, right? Like they've grown up in a world now where like that's become a big focus on media. It's been a big focus by companies, and you hear about it all the time. And that's one that they're like, hey, we're very about that cause, so we're going to do what we can to try to, you know, take part and make things better. And then one thing that it's interesting about them is they are influenced by influencers. So there's a whole industry of influencers. You know, they're like YouTube creators has like a convention every year. And I think it's like a Disney World or something, where all the different YouTube creators get together and they talk shop about the videos and stuff that they make. But there's an industry out there where products and services are reaching out to people that have millions of followers on Instagram or successful YouTube channels. And they're like, hey, I'm going to send you my product, or I'm going to pay you money just to talk about it. There's a kid, I think he was like 10 years old a couple of years ago, and he has like multi-million followers, channel subscribers on YouTube. And all the kid does is unbox toys. He just gets a toy and he takes it out of the box and he's like, look, here's a little figurine. Oh my gosh, so cool. Look at the packaging. The kid is making like $100,000 a year just off of the traffic, off of his YouTube channel. And he's set. He's like 13 years old maybe now. It's like insane, like how the industry that's been created because of this addiction to media that these generations have. And then obviously the demand immediacy and personalization, right? It's like if they can't get it right now, then they're gonna give up on it. And that you could take that whichever way you want. It can be kind of frustrating. It's like, hey, have some patience, but it's also like, hey, that's the world we live in now. We have to kind of bend to that and make sure that things are happening right away and that things are catered to them. So how they stack up. So Gen Y is also known as millennials, Gen Me or Gen We. They were born between 1980 and 96. They were raised primarily by baby boomers. There's 1.9 billion of them global, 80 million United States. And as I said, they were the largest generation in history up until Gen Z. Today, they make up 50% of the workforce and they pioneered digital. Then as far as our Gen Z goes, they are known as the iGen or post-millennials or centennials because they were born over the bridge of the millennial flip over here. So born between 97 and 2012, and I've seen a very strong asterisks up to 2015 for some. They were primarily raised by Gen X, but like I said, we have a Gen Z in the house who's 14. But they're primarily raised by Gen X, which is actually one of the smallest generations in history. And there's 2.52 billion of them globally, 90 million in the United States. So that's 10 million more people in our country that we have to think about. What are they going to be wanting different than Gen Y wants when they start to work and start to travel? And they'll make up 27% of the workforce by 2025. And then again, they were born in digital. And I think that that's a interesting distinction really between the two groups. If you were to take like one thing away, it's like Gen Z pioneered it, like had to figure it out. They had to move from an analog to a digital world. And Gen Z is like, this is all we know. And so it's funny, I've actually read some things and seen some things where Gen Z is actually less adept at like navigating new things because they're just used to the way it is. Like it's kind of been handed to me. Whereas Gen Y people are like, oh yeah, I can figure out how to make this software work or this thing or that. And like sometimes I expect my kid to be showing me like how to make something work, but I'm like still showing her. Whereas my parents, from day one, I was showing them how to work technology when I was her age. So it's kind of interesting how I anecdotally see that. But yeah, I think that those are very, very interesting distinctions between the two. So how they stack up, again, I think of millennials as like the Prius, right? Again, it's like that step in the old world, step in the new, where you have that kind of that hybrid approach. And then for Gen Z, it's like all about Tesla, right? If you're to think of like personify them in a vehicle, all electric, clean lines, it's got all the bells and whistles, it's connected, it does everything. Gets me to point A to point B, awesome, but it's also in style. And then the millennials are more like have the Prius, which is kind of like an old school car, but a little new school, so that's environmentally conscious because it's hybrid, but maybe not as environmentally conscious as like a Tesla. So that's kind of how I personify them. But with that, I want to introduce you to my Gen Z with a really interesting video I was able to capture that says it all about this generation.
Kayla.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is?
No.
You've never seen this before?
No.
Here, hold it. What do you think it is?
I've seen one before. It's a cassette tape.
A cassette tape?
It's something like that.
What does it do?
I don't know. Movie?
And the funny thing about this, guys, is that
Kayla.
Yeah.
that wasn't even staged. We were sitting cleaning out a closet and I found this and she came in like our crawl space and I was like, hey, what is this? And my wife just happened to catch it on video. I thought that was so cute, right? So she had never even really seen, definitely had never used a VHS tape. And so that was something I grew up with, and then it changed to DVDs and then it went all digital. She's sitting there on her connected TV, just tabbing through Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, all of those things. I mean, I remember Netflix, a lot of you guys probably remember when Netflix was initially a DVD rental service, right? They'd mail it to you, you'd mail it back. And now they pretty much all but canceled that service and it's all digital. So, that's what these kids nowadays are used to. So next I'm gonna get into their influences on travel specifically. And so as far as both of these generations go, and just to preface, for the travel segment, I'm bundling both of them together based on their habits as a group, because they are very, very similar, but I'll call out when and where they may fall different. So go ahead.
Tim, I'm sorry. We had one question before you moved on.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that these groups and behaviors apply globally?
Oh, I see that. Yeah. So from what I've researched and came to understand, yes, they do. They apply very much globally. I mean, technology has reached every corner of the world. Most of the world is completely connected now, and so those habits will go worldwide, especially in in Western cultures where we are traveling very frequently and have the great fortune of the quality of life that would afford us to be highly connected and highly adapted to technology and have the ability to enable our youth with these kind of things. Like we bought our my daughter's phone when she turned 12, right? So I didn't have a phone when I was 12. But every generation seems to be getting is always a little better off than their parents. But yes, I would say for the most part, these behaviors do apply globally, but especially in Western countries. Yeah, and feel free, guys, if you have questions, drop them in. I got it. I was looking over here, but I got it over here to keep an eye out in case another one comes in. But yes, so globally and as generations, obviously super tech savvy, right? So everything that they do in travel, they expect to be tech enabled in some way, whether that's booking, buying, changing, searching, looking for reviews, whatever. They need to have some sort of tech enabled environment, and I think that the travel industry has done a fantastic job of rolling that out. I remember it was not but 5-7 years ago when mobile boarding passes were new, and now everyone's using that. It's like actually weird now, just like the newspaper, when you see someone with a printed one, you're like, oh, you have a paper boarding pass? That's weird. Everyone's just like boop boop boop. But I remember when those first came out, that was like the coolest thing. We were reporting on that with my my business travel news website that I ran a few years ago. Like that was something that was very pioneering. But again, now it's expected, right? The generations want to do that. I mean, I use Twitter for my customer service. Like I fly United primarily, and they have a great presence on Twitter. And so if you have a question with customer service, I tweet them. Forget calling, forget emailing. I actually just go on my phone and tweet them. So, that leads to my next point, is that they're very socially active. They're going to use tools like social media for customer service, for asking for recommendations, for connecting with people while they're traveling. They try to create an experience out of their trips. And so social really helps to do that. It also helps to keep them organized. Every time I go on a trip to a new city, or even a city I've been to before, one of the first things I do is I start following all of the food profiles on Instagram, Best Foods New York or Eater Portland. I actually went to Portland with some buddies back in May, and I went on Eater Portland, and I started following all these ones because I was like, hey, when we get there, we want to find good restaurants to go eat at. And so I was like, how do I find them? What a great way, by seeing pictures of the food that's been posted on Instagram, and I know, oh man, that stack of pancakes looks amazing. I got to go to that restaurant while we're there. And so social media really helps me to make my trips better. And this is something that this generation is relying on. And then I alluded to this earlier, but personalization, customization, they want travel to be customized around them. They want to be able to, pick and choose and change and share and it needs to be it needs to be more personalized. And I think one of the things that that old moniker of the road warrior business traveler, that's I've reached my 1 million mile mark and they know my name and they roll out the red carpet but these guys, they want that now. They expect it even while they're still in the no status level. I want to be treated and feel like I'm being having my experience personalized around me. Otherwise, I'm just going to go find somebody else. And so it's kind of interesting that it's one of the things that I've heard people often say about this group is they're very entitled. Well, this kind of leads to that, right? It's I feel entitled that I should have something personalized to me even before I went out and earned my status, earned my keep. But you see this across the board in so many things. I check into hotels, and where was I recently? Was it a Moxie hotel? I think it was a Moxie hotel. And you go in and the TV said, "Welcome, Tim," right on the TV as I walked in. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Just those little touches though but that's the stuff that they expect, and it doesn't cost anything. It's just, you know, a little trick on the computer to make it say that as I walk into the room. You know, welcome, Jan. Oh, awesome, this is cool. Like, you know, it's cheesy, but it works and it makes people happy. So they expect it. And then these generations too are actually very, very comfortable with travel. Now, outside of COVID and that fiasco last year, traditionally, you know, that road warrior thing where you're away from your family for a certain amount of time, it was always tough. But the younger generation seem to be more comfortable with it in general. So they're like, hey, like, we're gonna send you on a long haul flight. You got to go to Europe, stay there for a week and come back. They're like, this is great, cool. I get to go to Europe. This is so fun. And part of the reason that they're more comfortable with it too is because they usually start families later, and so they're able to afford to, you know, be more of this road warrior mindset and be more comfortable with long haul flights and being gone more often and things like that. And then as the modes change, like when you have a family, you're like, oh, I'd like to be home more. Traveling 50% is too much for me. You know, things change, and so I think as they get older, that will change. But right now, where they sit, they're much more comfortable with travel. So if you're cool with sending your younger generations out on the road, do it, because they'll do it with a smile on their face. And then the biggest thing I would say is that they embrace change. So when things happen in the industry, they for the most part, unless it's taking technology away, which would never happen, they're very open to change and very eager to embrace it, especially when it tends to make things easier and more convenient. So that's a great thing about these generations, is that when change happens, you know, they're a big fan of change management, and as long as they understand the why behind it, why it's happening, they usually adopt it and then move forward. And so of global travelers by 2030, Gen Z and Gen Y is going to make up 73%. So 1 in 4 people on a plane or in a hotel will be this generation in the next 9 to 10 years, which is staggeringly crazy to think about, right? As people start to retire, people got to fill those shoes, and then you have these gigantic generations, 80 million and 90 million respectively, that now are filling all of those seats, filling all of those hotel rooms, and then putting that demand on the industry. So 73% of global business travelers will be made up of Gen Z and Gen Y. And then today, 50% of all flights booked are Gen Y and Gen Z. And so what I heard is really cool is the airlines are starting to do, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, and airlines that are in the room, you can chime in, but I heard what they're doing is they're just saying like, okay, all the Gen Zs and millennials, you guys are on this side of the plane, and then everybody else is on that side. You guys are doing that, right? You're just splitting it right down the middle, making sure they're separated. Don't mix them together. Just kidding. You guys should definitely be mixing. It's actually a really great thing for the generations to work together like that too, which I'll talk about in a minute, but they can learn so much from each other. It's like, hey, you baby boomer, you show me the ways and like how to really navigate the industry, talk to the customers, and I'll teach you how to, you know, use this mobile app or use these tools that I'm so apt at to make your trip better. And so like that sharing is a really great thing to do. And so, you know, mobile, again, is like the pivotal thing for this group. And, you know, the main things that they're using it for is managing their travel and reviewing it, searching and booking, obviously. And Gen Z is staggeringly crazy high with that. I think it was like 75% are even booking their travel on mobile now. And I think millennials were only in like the high 60s. Obviously, they're using mobile to connect with their friends and colleagues when they're on a trip, you know, using social. And then customer service, I gave you guys that example of whenever I'm looking to get something fixed with my flight or whatever, I am no doubtedly going to go to Twitter first. I remember I was sitting in an airport and they got on the intercom. They said, okay, this flight is going to be canceled. Come up to the kiosk, we'll rebook you on the next available flight. And everyone got up and got in line. And the line was, you know, 100 people long. I didn't get up. I took out my phone. I went on Twitter. I think this was with Delta. I tweeted Delta Assist and I said, just got a notification over the intercom, flight's canceled. Can you rebook me? I need to get to wherever I was going. I don't remember where I was going. they got back to me in a matter of like minutes. Yep, your confirmation number, blah, blah. Here are your options. We can rebook you on the 6 p.m. or the 9 p.m. They will arrive in your city at this time, And I said, okay, cool, give me the 6 p.m. Cool, no problem, done. Didn't even get up out of my seat. It was done in 5 minutes. And I watched in that amount of time, the person who I would have been behind just move up 2 spots. And so I was, forget going and getting in line. The power of mobile, especially when it comes to customer service, I find is unbelievably fantastic. I'll go backwards, forwards. And so the generation 2, 80% of them are using mobile frequently to leave reviews when they're traveling for business. And I do this quite a bit. I do this for my hotels. I do this for the restaurants I go to. They're leaving their input. They want people to know if their trip was good or if their trip was bad. They're going to share it, right? We've all kind of grown now, I think, to be really dependent on our reviews and understanding that if something bad happens, it's going to be vocalized. Gone are the days of the comment card where we fill out the comment card and drop it in a box or shoot an email or I'm going to write a letter. Okay. It's like you don't have to do that anymore. All you do now is you just post it to the community, and then that's going to cause tremendous change. And so this group of travelers is highly reliant on that. And so that's something to consider, right? Is if they're not getting their personalized experience, if the trip or their travel experience is not meeting their expectations, they're going to leave a review about it, or if it's unbelievably meeting them or exceeding them, they're going to leave a review about it too. And they're going to share photos. And I mean, we've seen, and just with COVID stuff, right? How many times have we seen like these videos that get leaked of people getting kicked off the planes and stuff like that? And like, that's crazy. But only in a day like today is that even happening, because we have, this power in our pocket to be able to share that experience, whether it was positive or negative. And we're going to do that in reviews. We're going to do that in social sharing. We're going to post about it. So we all kind of got to be on our best behavior. It's kind of an interesting agent of change, but it's something to consider either way. And obviously, company culture and brand and everything kind of dictates like how much you care about that, how much you leverage that. But it's something to think about, that 80% of them are actively sharing their experiences and leaving reviews. Now, here's a great term. How many people know the term leisure? You can maybe push that little hand button or raise your hand. I can see the screen too. This is something that I've always been a fan of, but I guess maybe because I fall in this generation, mixing business and leisure on our trips. I think all of us, everyone nowadays, no matter what generation you fall in, is trying to do this just because of how crazy our schedules have been and all of the stress that we're under constantly at work. We want to try to mix it in, but millennials and our Gen Zs have kind of led the charge at like kind of creating this in a way where they're mixing that business and leisure travel, and they definitely do it more than the other generations. So like 75% of millennials are looking for travel experiences outside of business, like where they can like learn something new while they're on their trip. So it's like, maybe I'm done with my meeting. I'm going to go take a cooking class, or I'm going down to New Orleans and I want to go, hang out with a Creole chef or something. I don't know. Like they try to tie that stuff in, right? And then millennial travelers are also more willing to extend their business trip for the sake of leisure. I did this recently when I got tasked with going to London this is my very first time going to London. It's like, hey, we need you to go for a conference. I was like, great. I got there, set up for the conference. And then I said to my boss, I was like, hey, so it's actually cheaper for me to come back that Sunday. Would it be cool if I extended my trip and I got these like 2 more hotel nights? I would actually save the company money, and that way I can go hang out and have some fun. And they're like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, cool. And like, I definitely wanted to do that because I wanted to go explore while I was there, right? So that was something that was really, really important, and something that made my trip more fun and made me more willing to travel, of course. And then I think this also ties really well into that desire for work-life balance with millennials and with Gen Z as well. Leisure helps a lot with that. So this was kind of interesting. Concur did a study with return to normal. So now kind of talking about the COVID stuff, and they found that 31% of business travelers find their trips to be in that stressful range, but last year was like 45%. In 2019, it was 30. So that stress level is kind of returning to normal, which is cool. And then travel managers are 100%, according to their survey, are now expecting to implement new policies and guidelines in the next 12 months. I mean, the duty of care has changed so much, I think, in the industry, and that's something that, you know, our very aware generations are very keen on. And then 95% of our Gen Zs expect that there's going to be new benefits related to the travel policies as well. It's like, okay, well, what else can I get out of this? It's, you know, it's a slight uptick from the 94%, but again, it's that personalization, it's that expectation of trips being set up for them. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see as well. So as far as the way we can like win with them in travel is we want to allow customization wherever possible. We're going to make adjustments to our travel policy to the way that we cater to them as a supplier as well. We want to explore new methods of communication, right? Are we going to send them an email? Do we write them a letter? No, we tweet to them. We text them. Like, I'd rather get a text message update than a phone call, right? We're going to use mobile apps wherever possible. We want to leverage social tools. And then obviously, last but not least, is consider generational needs. Like, catering to these groups is super important, but we can't forget about our more seasoned traveler friends as well. So then as far as the way they work, which very much influences the way that they travel, one last little video. I'm not going to show you guys this whole one, but I just thought it was kind of funny, and we'll jump into the working stuff.
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
No.
PowerPoint?
No.
Publisher?
Not really.
Exactly in what area of technology are you proficient?
Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Vine, Twitter. You know, the big ones.
I'm surprised you didn't say Facebook.
That's for old people, like my parents. That's funny.
Well, Amy, when you're working for me, you have to have those kind of research skills, because I'll send you things for you to comb through and get the answers and send them to me. So for that, you got to be really good at technology.
For stuff like that, no problem. I'll just ask Siri.
You'll just ask Siri?
You know, Siri, tell me this, Siri, find me that. We're all good getting you the answers.
Tell Siri, I want you ready to go at 8 sharp each and every morning.
I don't understand.
What don't you understand?
What you just said.
You don't understand be ready to go?
No. You said 8, right?
Yes.
8 like in the morning 8?
Yes, in the morning.
Yeah. That kind of doesn't work for me. Who gets up at 8?
I do.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. I don't even get to Starbucks until like 10, where I order my grande chai tea latte, 3 pump skim milk, light water, 2% foam, extra hot, but not too hot. So if it's okay, I work best in the morning at 10:45.
Best in the morning at 10:45, sure. Well, hopefully you guys have never had to do an interview with somebody like that, but these caricature things are really funny, just to kind of, you know, see that stark difference. You know, I think part of the responsibility is for those of us who are, you know, bringing these people in under our wing, is to, you know, kind of train them to like reset expectations. I think is a big part of what we got to do with this. Not to say like, hey, we should cater to that type of mindset at all, but you know, there is a little bit of a coddled understanding that we kind of have to get over that hump a little bit when working together. But what's really, really interesting about this group is that 75% of the workforce is going to be made up of them by 2025. And so, you know, that's our Gen Zs our millennials who are already about 50%, and then our Gen Zs that are going to continue to start coming to age here. So you'll have you'll have your first ones that are actually starting to enter the workforce now, and then like that generation will continue to mature. So again, very much matching that 73% of global travelers that we looked at earlier. Now, this is kind of interesting. Gen Z is actually 36% of them actually claim that they've experienced ageism. let that sink in for a second. They've felt like they've been discriminated against because of a perceived lack of experience. So they did a poll on that, and they were like, yeah, no, I feel like I didn't get the job, or I'm not taken seriously at work because of my age. So I thought that was kind of funny to read that like they were saying that, oh, you're being ageist against me because I'm too young. So I think that's a kind of an interesting anecdote. And 44% of that group just felt like they were viewed as inexperienced, and older millennials like myself felt like it was like only 28% of us, and those up to like age 56 were like, no, like we don't really feel like it that much. But for some reason, those entitled Gen Zs, boy, they feel like they're being discriminated against. I don't know. We'll work through that one. And then 50% of this group of people are actually expected to move into a freelance type of job in the next 5 years, which is leading to a term that's called the Great Resignation. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but this was coined by Anthony Klotz from Texas A&M, and he said because of the freelance economy with tools like Upwork, Fiverr, FlexJobs, Touring.com, and like the rest of the gig economy, a lot of these people are like, hey, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna go work for myself in some sort of way because of these type of tools are out there for me. So there's what they might be expecting is a great resignation wave that's coming over the next few years. So keep your eye out for that. Hopefully not. I think as workers, we want to try to keep our loyalty wherever possible, but it's something we should keep our eye on and understand that might be coming down the pike. 92% of this group also wants to use their skills for good. So I talked about like social good stuff before. They also want to work for a company and contribute to a company that they think is like making change in the world and whatever possible. Obviously gives you that fuzzy feeling inside, and so they want to work for those kind of companies. And then there's a pretty big divide between how this group is, but here in this example is millennials perceive themselves versus how HR people see them. So I think this was kind of funny, like 82% think they're loyal to their employers, where like HR professionals think that's only 1%. So it's always interesting to look on the other side of the mirror and see how you perceive yourself versus how people in your company perceive you from a generational standpoint. Also this tech savvy one, they're like, yeah, we're super tech savvy. Or we're tech savviness is only 35% of who we are. And then the HR professionals, no, that's like 86% of like who you are. So you're very good at tech, but not very loyal. So the perceptions are interesting, and we have to like figure out how we like bridge those gaps in perception. And that's really like, understanding where they're coming from and then coaching wherever we possibly can. And so next up, guys, is actually Gen A. So the alphas. So we went from Y, Z, A. And so that's the next group that's born after Gen Z. We'll be talking about them. I'll come back in like, I don't know, 10 years and we can talk about them. So hopefully you guys are still part of the BTA then, but I will be back to talk about Gen A. They're the first generation to be wholly born within this century. The oldest is turning 10 next year, so still pretty young, not really gonna influence travel yet. They will be the best educated, even more than our millennial friends. They'll also be the wealthiest, inheriting wealth from their older parents. The most tech immersed, so even more so than our Zs. And it's also interesting, they'll spend some or all their time without both parents, as sad as that sounds. So that's something to think about too, right? Is they won't have both parents in the house. So how do we win them over? And I know we're about at time, so I want to wrap this up. So number one, we want to be brief, informative, and clear with our younger generations. We want to make sure that they understand the why behind the changes that we're doing. We want to offer the information that they're looking for, but have it be very clear and concise. We don't want a 100-page a travel program. Maybe do like a 5-pager, simplify it, make a video about it. I don't know, figure out a way to keep it brief, informative, and clear. You want to offer constructive validation, but don't give out any trophies. These guys are already kind of known as a trophy generation. I think if you keep giving them trophies, it's only going to make them more entitled and probably worse. So offer constructive validation, like, hey, you did great, but we can improve here. Embrace technology. I think I've said the word technology 1,000 times in this presentation, so no more need to be said about that. And then delivering end-to-end experiences, whether you're a travel manager and you're trying to make their travel experience better to keep them retained, or if you're a supplier and you're trying to make it more customized and personalized to them, trying to deliver an end-to-end experience from booking to trip completion will make it so much better for them. And then you want to know your limits, what you can do within your company, within your role professionally, and set real boundaries, because they're going to try to push those boundaries, and you got to keep them in. You got to go, listen, this is how we do it in our company. I've tried to accommodate you as much as possible. If it doesn't make sense, then maybe this isn't your home. And then, of course, every generation thinks that the younger generation sucks. So I know people think my generation sucks, and I think the Zs suck, and the Zs are going to think the Alphas suck. So let's just keep that as a matter of perspective as well. The new generation is always the biggest group of babies. So with that, I say thank you. Please follow me. Hit me up on tnhines.com. And I also recently launched a podcast called the Marketing Starter Podcast. You can find that if you want to listen to me interview people about marketing, if you have any interest in marketing. So with that, I will kick it back over to the BTA folks.